you heard throughout the day the importance of getting engaged. You've heard some statistics, you've heard some stories, you've heard some movements that are happening around the globe. So, but three things I would like to focus on in my speech. And one is the role indoctrination plays in building up racism. The second thing is rejection of collective punishment. We have all been victims of that. Every community has been a victim of that. And we have seen what happened with us in our dear state of Minnesota because of collective punishment. Or at least people promoting it as, we receive that message as a collective punishment. The third one is resisting importing of extreme ideologies from different governments around the world. We have seen that, we're experiencing that, we're living that. So how do you mitigate all these three things and constantly be aware how indoctrination, collective punishment, and the incoming of these ideologies that are polluting our democratic process, our democratic system, and our nation? Okay, let's come down to Minnesota. In Minnesota, this conversation is especially important. Our state is home to people from many faiths, as you've seen today, cultures and backgrounds. This diversity is our strength. It is our greatest strength. It enriches our neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and places of worship. Yet, alongside these opportunities, we also face challenges. We continue to see instances of Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, racism in all its ugly forms, and other forms of prejudice. For many Muslims and Minnesotans, anti-Muslim prejudice remains a significant concern. Every word matters, and every word carries a certain perception and certain perspective and a weight. So I think it's very important as we're having conversations, we pay attention to the words we are hearing, what we should accept, and what we should reject. While Islamophobia, I'm going to quote Bassem Youssef in a minute, is the most widely used term. Our Egyptian-American commentator and comedian, Bassem Youssef, has argued that the term does not fully capture what many Muslims and Arabs experience. This phobia implies a fear. It's at the individual level. But what many people face is not merely fear. It is prejudice, discrimination, exclusion, dehumanization, and sometimes violence. I personally think that is a very good argument of Bassem Youssef, and I support that. But in lack of a better term today, we will refer to this as Islamophobia. Because I think the term phobia most is accepted because it implies an individual versus it takes it away from what we think about racism, which is systematic, it's organized, and there are many networks that are pushing a certain type of narrative against this in dehumanizing and othering other communities. So the next point I wanted to make was rejection of collective punishment. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about indoctrination, give you a personal example, because indoctrination starts and exists for many decades before events like 9/11 happens, because we tend to associate certain types of hatred as a result of a certain event, right? We say, oh, 9/11 started the racism snowball effect. No, that was only a trigger point for a lot of people. What had preceded that was decades of stereotyping, dehumanizing, not by accident, but it was by design. So we have to be constantly aware of that. And the worst part is that the extremist groups understand this. They exploit fears, they exploit economic anxieties, social grievances, and feelings of isolation. They offer simplistic explanations for complex problems. When these messages coming by design from various extremist groups become a constant drumbeat in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, coming from social media, from the entertainment industry, whether it's Hollywood or Bollywood, because I'm seeing a trend now in Bollywood where the othering started to happen. It didn't exist when I was growing up in India. This extremist thinking becomes normalized. So what happens when it becomes normalized? It becomes accepted. And when it becomes accepted, the impact of that on individuals and families is diluted. So, I can even give you a personal example. Part of my childhood was in Hisar, Haryana. We were one of the two Muslim families growing up. I was 13, 14, 15. And I witnessed this indoctrination. At that point in time, I did not know which group it was. I still don't know what group it was, right in front of our house. My parents would say, don't go out when this group is out there with these young kids chanting these things. We were too naive to understand what those young kids would grow up to be. So that's a personal example I wanted to share with you. Second, democracy requires pluralism, free debate, and rejection of collective blame. And we have all heard about that, we've witnessed that, we see that daily. We actually witness that on an ongoing basis, whether it's in India related to Muslims and Christians, whether it's related to Gaza and other places, or now Lebanon. It's Muslims, Christians, how we see how Christians are being treated by Zionists. But a healthy democracy depends on its ability to debate ideas, challenge political movements, and criticize ideologies. What we believe is that criticism of a political ideology should not automatically be interpreted as hostility towards a religious group. We know that's happening today, and we're told to zip our lips. Criticism of Zionism should not be conflated with Judaism or Jews. Just as criticism of Hindu nationalism should not be conflated with Hinduism or Hindus. I can give you a very specific example. For example, if many of you may remember, some of you may not, the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, which was carried out by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, which resulted in 168 people being killed and hundreds more injured and hundreds of buildings destroyed. Americans, we, did not collectively blame Christians for the actions of those two individuals. Responsibility rested with those individuals and individuals alone, and no other extremist ideology conflating them to Christianity or white supremacism was embraced. So why this double standard? We also know after World War II, Nazism was separated from Germans. Nobody punished all of Germany for the actions of Nazis. So if we are serious about resisting hate and extremism, we must reject this collective guilt in all its forms. Individuals should be judged by their actions and their actions alone. Ideologies should be open to scrutiny, and debate and debate. Community should never be treated as responsible for the actions of few. So the third point, my last point, I promise. Americans, as we've heard many of our groups talk about, should resist imported extremist ideologies and defend our universal human rights. I'm a daughter of a World War II veteran who volunteered to be in the British Army and who went out to fight fascism. He was a surgeon. He was there to save lives. He brought back his life as an inspiration for me and my siblings as we grew up on what true humanity is about. Shifa Clinic is an inspiration that comes from my father. So what do we need to do? We need every stakeholder in this effort. We are talking about leaders, journalists, faith communities, educators, civil society organizations. So with that summary of what happened during the day, I'd like to conclude and just say we need a call to action. This event cannot be the start and the end of our fight for these three critical components we talked about, because our lack of engagement, both civically in education, has resulted, I'm not blaming everybody directly, but I'm saying the lack of empathy when one community is affected. When we don't engage, that lack of empathy will only mushroom the racism because it's coming right from the top.